fighting desperately for its relevance and its...
If you are someone that regularly watch my videos, you notice that right from 2024, I've been talking about the fact that Donald Trump was going to win the US elections, and with the reason that God actually want to use Donald Trump to carry out a special mandate. And right from December 2024 into somewhere January 2025, I made a couple of videos talking about the fact that 2025 is going to be a year of cash flow. It's a year where God wants to favor the global economy and allow cash money to flow into the system. And with this, God is actually going to influence and allow the right leaders to be elected or put into power, so that He'll be able to use these leaders to carry out this mandate. If you are someone that is in tune with the Bible, you notice that whenever God wants to bring a change, carry out a certain mandate, He allows certain leaders to be put in place. And in fact, and as we know, in fact, the US is arguably the superpower of the world economy, and whatever happens there has a rippling effect across the globe. And that is why Trump being elected will play a very key role in transforming the global economy. And I know Trump is unpopular because of the tariff situation, but trust me, in fact, things are going to settle down and we're going to see the market do very, very well. In fact, in 2025, what we are going to witness in 2025 is going to even be greater than what we witnessed in history in 1950 to 1973, where the global economy did very well. And that's when the GDP per capita of the global economy grew astronomical. In fact, this year is going to break all-time record and will even beat that record that happened in 1950 to 1973. And I know some people might doubt what I'm talking about in this video, but then those that are prophetically inclined and understand some of these things will totally agree with what I'm talking about in this video. So now, how is God going to allow cash to flow into the system? By what medium? By what means? How will cash flow into the system? But the areas that God is going to use to allow cash to flow into the system is investment. In fact, this century is actually a century of investment and not a century of savings, as a lot of people are traditionally inclined to. So areas like stocks and then the Gen Z investment known as Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, these are areas that God is going to use to allow cash money to flow into the system. And the question will be, why Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? But I know that a lot of people might be picky, and then some people might even go like, for me, anything to do with the internet, I don't trust. But then you forget that you are living in the Gen Z age. You are living in the internet age. If you don't trust anything about the internet, then go back to the Stone Age. You see, but some conservative Christians might be very, very picky. They might see Bitcoin cryptocurrency and think that it's some kind of internet scam, it's some kind of gambling, is satanic, and might not want to have anything to do with it. But one thing is that they just hear about it. They don't take their time to do due diligence to get to know what it's all about, and just throw it outrightly into the dustbin. But things have moved ahead. So that's why this century is a century of investment. So please pay attention to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. In fact, God actually supports investment. That's why in Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 2, he says, invest in 7 areas. In fact, even in 8. Why? Because for you do not know when the evil days might come. So Trump being elected into power, instead of when immediately he came to power, he just started supporting Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Meanwhile, this was something that the previous government, they kick against strongly. But when he came to power, he was supporting it. And look at Congress. Congress is full of pro-Bitcoin politicians. And you think this is by mistake. But this is something that is happening underground to bring about that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency revolution. So please pay attention to it. But as I did talk about some of my videos, that the US dollar, which is arguably the world dominant currency, in fact has a lot of cabal of satanic forces that actually control the US dollar. And what they do is that they put in systems in place that keep the world impoverished. And whenever the world is impoverished, the more those people are enriched. And for those people are just about even less than or around 5% of the global population. So they do this to keep themselves enriched and keep majority of people across the globe to be impoverished. But then this time around, God is going to use Bitcoin cryptocurrencies to allow money flow into the system. Now, the reason is that Bitcoin cryptocurrency, by their nature, they are technologies that are totally decentralized, especially with Bitcoin. It is totally decentralized, and it being decentralized means that we can't have anyone with a cynical or a parochial interest to be able to have a control over it and then keep others impoverished. It allows even wealth distribution and allows anyone at all, no matter your background, to be able to make money. So that's why God is using Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So if it is something you have not really thought about, please do due diligence. Don't just throw it outrightly into the dustbin. Take your time, understand what it's all about, because it's actually one of the areas that God is going to use to allow cash to flow into the system. As I said, those people that are actually prophetically inclined will agree with what I'm talking about in this video. And whoever is into investment, for whoever is open-minded and want to understand what Bitcoin cryptocurrency is, please understand it. It's one of the areas that God wants to allow money to flow into. Unfortunately, people like us don't have that kind of huge amount of money to invest into it. But those that have a lot of money that they can pump into it will actually make a lot of money this year, 2025. But it's also worth noting that Bitcoin cryptocurrencies is a risky investment, which is highly volatile. So if you do not understand what you are doing, the same way you can make a lot of money is also the same way you can easily lose a lot of money if you invest into the wrong coins or maybe invest at the wrong time. So that is why you need to do a lot of careful study about it, then carefully invest at the right time. So in fact, this year we are going to have a lot of positive leaders across the globe, and that is why someone like Ibrahim Traore, in fact, we are going to have more positive leaders, and in fact a lot of leaders are going to stand against the West and to take radical decisions, and all these kind of radical decisions will all sum up to help to improve the global economy. And then interestingly, people from Ghana, for Ghana is one of the economies that God wants to transform, and then in fact he's going to use the leadership of John Dramani Mahama, the president of Ghana, to help in transforming the economy of Ghana. So in fact, I'm not saying this because I support NDC or MPP. The issue that anyone that knows me will know that I'm not someone that's a politician. In fact, I'm actually someone that's an Akufo-Addo fan. But the reality on the ground is that John Mahama and NDC government, they are going to do well. They're going to do well from now to the end of the year and beyond. They will do very well, though there might be some hitches, but they will do well. You see, so all these are the agenda that God is having in place to ensure that He will favor the global economy. But in case after watching this video, you have made up your mind, but you don't know much about Bitcoin, the currency, there's a link at the description. You can click on that link. It will take you to one of my videos, which will explain to you step by step what Bitcoin, the currency is, and how to safely invest into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So guys, I will draw the curtains here. I'll see you again another time with more videos. Bye bye.